Everyone knows that I love reptiles, and you probably love reptiles as well. That's why you're here. But there are a few of them that I'm just not a big fan of. So today we'll be counting down the top 6 reptiles that you'll never see in my collection. What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I make videos on all things reptiles and amphibians, so make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any of that. Today I'll be talking about reptiles that I will never keep for one reason or another, but the animals on this list are not necessarily super difficult to care for or make bad pets. In fact, some of them can actually make pretty great pets. This is just more of a matter of personal preference. So if you see an animal that you really love on this list, please don't hate me or unsubscribe. Instead, feel free to leave me a bunch of like middle finger emojis or something in the comments. Lastly, if you want to pick the next video, just make sure you follow me on Instagram. I always put up polls where I let you guys pick what you guys want to see next. But with that out of the way, guys, let's get into the countdown. Number 6. Monkey-tailed skinks. This is a species of lizard native to the Solomon Islands. They are the largest skink in the world, capable of reaching up to 3 feet in length. They are arboreal, so they're going to spend a lot of time climbing up in the trees. They also have a prehensile tail, which is pretty cool, meaning they can grab onto things with it, so it acts almost like a fifth limb. And this is a species that does really well in groups, in case you were looking for something that you can cohab. And overall, they make a pretty good pet for the right person. Their care really isn't super complicated. They would just need a good amount of room in order to properly house them. The reason why I wouldn't get one is just due to their appearance. I think these guys are so ugly.
Whoa. Yeah. Suddenly you're very uncomfortable. We're all uncomfortable just looking at him now. Because he's gross. He's ugly. He's a little bit of a monster. Now, is it this man's fault that he looks this way? No, he was born this way.
I don't know what it is about them, but to me at least, they kind of look like if the Thing from the Fantastic Four had a baby with like some kind of like lizard booger thing. You would get a monkey-tailed skink. I just do not like how they look. And also they are kind of pricey. All day it's gonna be $1,000 for a captive bred baby. So yeah, if I'm gonna spend $1,000 on a reptile, like I would just rather it not look like a monkey-tailed skink. Number 5, Leachianus geckos. This is definitely one that has grown in popularity over the last few years. They are the biggest species of gecko in the world, capable of reaching up to 15 inches in length. They come from the island of New Caledonia, which is right off the coast of Australia. And some of the indigenous people of that island actually fear the Leachianus gecko because of an old superstition which claims that this gecko has the ability to leech onto a person and just suck out their soul, which is pretty cool. They do pretty well in captivity. With proper care, they can live more than 20 years. The reason I wouldn't get one, they're not really ugly per se, but they're just super bland to me. Like, there's just nothing about them that really stands out to me. I'm not a big fan of their colors, their pattern, or anything like that. They kind of just look like a bigger crested gecko to me, minus the crests and the awesome morphs, I guess. So yeah, there's just nothing at all about it that draws me to it. So I don't really get the hype behind them. But yeah, that's just my opinion. And if I were to get a bigger gecko, I'd probably go for something like a gargoyle gecko, a tokay, or maybe even a giant day gecko instead of a lychee. Number 4, Western hognose snakes. This is a really cool species that comes from South America. They are pretty rare in the hobby. They're definitely not as popular as their cousins, the Western hognose snakes. They stay pretty small. They max out at around 2 feet, with females typically being larger. and I just really like the look of the snake. I like their colors. To me, they kind of look like a mix between a western hognose and some kind of milk snake. But yeah, they're an awesome species. I really like just their whole aesthetic, I guess. And they actually make pretty good pets, and they're not very difficult to care for. The reason I wouldn't keep one is actually because of their short lifespan. The longest lived species, well, I guess individual, was only about 8 years old, and on average, they tend to live between 6 to 7 years old at most. So yeah, just not a very long-lived species, which is just really weird for a snake, I guess. Usually snakes live a lot longer than that. So yeah, I wouldn't get one just because I don't want to get attached to an animal and then, it's dead in just a few years. Number 3, aquatic turtles. So I'm talking about a whole bunch of turtles here, which includes red-eared sliders, mud turtles, yellow-bellied sliders, musk turtles, map turtles, whatever, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't keep them for a few reasons. Number 1, a lot of these turtles will actually need pretty big enclosures as adults, so they're going to take up a lot of space. And number 2, anything that has water, you're going to have to be doing water changes and maintenance pretty frequently, which is just honestly a giant pain in the ass. If I'm going to have to be doing all that work, I would actually rather have a fish tank filled with fish instead of turtles. I just think it's just a lot more visually appealing to me, in my opinion. That being said, there is one exception. There is one aquatic turtle that I would absolutely love to get. It is one of the most beautiful creatures that I have ever seen, and you guys will probably end up seeing it on this channel one day. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, make sure you subscribe. But yeah, it's like I'm telling you, like, it's just an insane turtle. But whatever, let's just move on to the next animal. Number 2, Kenyan sand boas. These guys come from Africa and they make really great beginner pets. They stay pretty small. They max out around 3 feet, but typically you're going to see them around the 2 feet mark, with females usually being a bit bigger. They come from the desert, and they are a fossorial species, which means they spend a lot of time burrowed in the ground with just their head poking out. They do this for a couple reasons. Number 1, to avoid predators, and number 2, to stay cool under the ground and avoid that, hot desert sun. I wouldn't keep them for a few reasons. Number 1, they're just so derpy looking. Like, to me, they look like someone just like copy and pasted like some googly eyes on top of like a snake and called it a day. Number 2, when I think of like a boa, I think of like a South American boa, like a big boa constrictor, something really impressive, not this guy. And then lastly, they don't really do much. Like they spend a lot of their time just burrowed in their enclosure, so you're never gonna get to see it. Like, I would honestly rather just, get a tank, fill it with a bunch of sand, and then tell people that I have a Kenyan sand boa, and they'd never tell the difference anyways. Number 1, chameleons. Chameleons are awesome, guys. There's just no denying that. They're known for their wide range of super bright colors and the ability to actually change those colors. So they'll do that either to camouflage, to avoid detection by predators, or as a form of social signaling. So they'll actually brighten up in order to display aggression, or they'll darken down to display submission. They also have that long sticky tongue that they're famous for, that they use to catch their prey with. And a chameleon's eyes are also independently mobile of each other. So the brain is actually analyzing 2 separate images at the same time, which is just amazing and an incredible talent. There's more than 200 species of chameleons in the world, but only a very small percentage of that is actually kept in captivity. Today, the most popular ones we see out there are the veiled chameleon, the panther chameleon, and the Jackson's chameleon. I wouldn't keep them as pets for pretty much the same reasons I wouldn't keep a tricolor hognose snake, and that is that they have a super short lifespan. They typically just live between 4 to 8 years. However, unlike the hognose snakes, their care is much more difficult and they're a lot less hardy. So if you slightly mess something up, there's a good chance your chameleon's gonna die. And even if you are doing, a lot of the things right, sometimes they'll just drop dead overnight. So I don't know. To me, it just seems like a lot of stress trying to keep this animal alive, And even if you are able to, at best case scenario, like you're only gonna have them for a few years. So I don't know, to me it's just not worth it. That wraps up my list of the top 6 reptiles you'll never see in my collection. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you thought of my list. And I'm also curious, are there any reptiles that you know for a fact you're never going to want to keep? Let me know down below. But yeah, guys, that wraps up today's video. As always, thanks for watching and enjoy your reptiles.